Hello everyone and welcome to my Read-O-Rama Wrap Up. So I just want to apologise if I seem a little bit tired in this video or if I look a little bit hot and sweaty. I am all of those things because it is a swelteringly hot day here today. Over the last week I have been taking part in the Read-O-Rama readathon. I've had a really good time with it. The overall challenge was to read 7 books in those 7 days, and I know I said in my TBR video that I didn't think I would be able to read anything like that amount of books this week, but I can happily tell you that I somehow managed to finish 6 of the 7 books in that TBR video. I know, I have been reading crazy voraciously recently. I'm on a real reading roll and I'm absolutely loving it. So of those 6 books, I gave 2 of them 3 stars, 2 of them 4 stars, and 2 of them 5 stars. So it was a real mix as well. So I'm going to start off with the books that I gave 3 stars to. One of those was The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. I read this for the challenge of read a book of less than 150 pages. This is very short. It's only something like 66, 67 pages. We follow the perspective of a woman who is working as a kind of faux psychic, but she also does some softcore sex work on the side. So right away we are in the mindset of a very interestingly morally ambiguous character, and a woman comes in for a psychic reading and she seems quite agitated and quite scared about her home life. So our protagonist goes home with her, realizes that this woman lives in a very mysterious, creepy manor house, and the stepson seems to have a few problems of his own, and we don't really know whether there is anything supernatural going on or whether the stepson just has some very deep-seated mental health problems. There was a very open, ambiguous ending that I didn't see coming, but it just kind of felt a little bit lacking for me. I think I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more if it was a little bit longer, maybe a novella or maybe even a full blown out novel on its own, because I did find the characters really interesting, but there just wasn't enough for me to be fully invested in them, unfortunately, so I didn't give it any more than 3 stars. The next book I gave 3 stars to was See How They Lie by Sue Woolman. I read this for the challenge of read a book with water on the cover. This is a kind of thriller, mystery-esque story about a girl who lives in a wellness retreat for troubled teenagers. It is run by her father, who is the psychiatrist there, and everybody there lives a very strict, regimented life, but she is a bit of a rule breaker. She starts to break some of these very strictly imposed rules. She discovers some secrets about her family life, and she starts asking questions, and she basically realizes why she really shouldn't do that in this place. There were some twists that I didn't see coming, but unfortunately I didn't really connect with the characters as well as I wanted to, so when the twists happened I was just a bit like, I don't really care enough to be completely blown away by this, but it didn't take me too long to get through, so it was really enjoyable while it lasted. It was quite fast paced, but yeah, I did want to enjoy it slightly more than I did, unfortunately. The next book I gave 4 stars to, and that is Armada by Ernest Cline. I read this for the challenge of read a book with Rama, R-A-M-A in the title. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline is one of my favourite books ever, and I did definitely prefer that to this, but I apparently enjoyed this book a lot more than a lot of people seem to enjoy it. It's about a boy called Zach who is very good at a video game called Armada, and one day when he is staring out the window at school he sees the enemy spaceship from Armada fly across the sky, and he starts to wonder what on earth is going on here. He starts to wonder whether he's going a little bit crazy. Zach's father died when Zach was still a baby, but Zach has grown up with his father's science fiction collection and his father's conspiracy theories about alien invasion and military recruitment through science fiction and all of that. So he kind of thinks that his father might have been a little bit crazy too, so when he sees this spaceship he starts to wonder whether he has maybe inherited a few too many more of his father's genes than he perhaps wanted to. But as the story goes on, he starts to go on a sci-fi adventure, uncovers some secrets, and I can't really say too much more without spoiling the book, but I really enjoyed it. Ernest Cline's writing style I really love. It's very quirky, very funny in places. There was a lot of science fiction pop culture referenced in this that I hadn't heard of, so I now have a whole list of science fiction pop culture to go and research, which I'm super excited about. So yeah, I did really enjoy it, but yeah, Ready Player One is a better book, but I did still really enjoy this one too. The next book I gave 4 stars to, and that is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. I read this for the challenge of Read a Graphic Novel. This is also an Own Voices book, so it kind of it serves for both of those challenges as well. This is a graphic novel about a girl growing up in Iran, and it just basically spans her childhood into her adolescence, into her adulthood. So she eventually goes to college in Vienna, and she kind of is able to compare her culture that she's grown up with in Iran with the Western culture that she comes into contact with in Vienna, and then she comes back to Iran as an adult. And I just learned a lot about Iranian culture and the Islamic Revolution, and it was really funny in places as well, even though it is dealing with some pretty hard-hitting dark topics, obviously to do with growing up female in an Islamic country, but it was really interesting. I learnt a lot about that culture, and it was really lovely to see it injected with a awesome sense of humour too. So yeah, I do certainly see where the hype has come from surrounding this graphic novel. And the last 2 books I gave 5 stars to. One of them was A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. I read this for the challenge of Read a Book That You Are Highly Anticipating. This book had been on my wish list for ages before I managed to get a copy, and I'm so happy that I have finally read it. It is a very creepy, psychologically disturbing horror novel about a girl who is apparently showing signs of schizophrenia, but her parents, who don't have all that much money, think that she might be possessed by a demon, and because they don't have too much money, they end up selling the process of her exorcism to a TV show and to a TV station, and it is kind of televised as a reality TV show. Very unique. I've never ever read a book like it. It is told primarily from the perspective of this girl's younger sister. So we see most chapters are dealing with the time when the exorcism is happening. So our narrator is primarily an 8-year-old girl, but there are other chapters 15 years later where she is in her 20s and she's talking to a writer who is interviewing her about what happened to her sister and her family 15 years ago. So we do get those kind of dual perspectives between when this is happening and the aftermath of it, but it was so disturbing and just so absorbing. I was completely hooked, and it did really creep me out. There was a lot of horror pop culture referenced in this as well, which I hadn't heard of, so I now have a whole list of horror authors and books and films and just horror pop culture to delve into, which I'm really excited about because I haven't really read or seen all that much horror outside of Stephen King, Joe Hill, a little bit of Shirley Jackson. So yeah, I would really love to delve into some more, and this book has given me a whole load of other names and titles to explore, which I'm really appreciative of. But I really love this book, so I would thoroughly recommend it if you like your kind of exorcism, possession, horror stories. Yeah, definitely pick this up. And the last book that I gave 5 stars to is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I read this for the challenge of Read a Book Published in Any Summer. This was published in July 2014. This is an adult sci-fi novel about a crew on a spaceship called the Wayfarer, which is a tunneling ship. So what they do is they basically build tunnels in space between one point to another, and the eclectic mix of characters in this book is absolutely insane. I loved learning about all of these different alien races and how they live together on this ship. It was so funny, so quirky, and I know there is a sequel, and I am actually desperate to get my hands on that sequel because I really loved it. Just fell in love with all of the characters and their relationships. It was just so lovely. So yeah, if you have heard great things about this book, which I'm sure you have because I have heard loads of great things about it, then please pick it up because it is definitely worth all of those great things said about it. And that is it for my Read-O-Rama wrap up. Did you take part in Read-O-Rama? Please let me know if you did. Let me know what you read and what you thought of what you read. Big thank you to everyone who left some lovely comments on my last video. It just really meant the whole world to me that you guys are there for me and that you do support me and that you do love me. Thank you so much for that. I will leave all of my social media in the description down below. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye bye.